taking some time out of your life to learn about toxicity and how it affects our health. I'm going to ask you guys a question. How many of you believe that toxicity is actually an issue, a thing? Okay, yeah, okay. Everybody seems to believe that. Do you think that's true of the wider culture as a whole?
Mm-hmm.
No. Yeah, I don't think people realize what we're dealing with. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. I'm going to show you a little video, at least part of a video, in just a minute. So chemical and mental toxicities may be the most overlooked health issue in America. Chemical toxicity isn't tested very often. I do it in my office, and the tests are available, and they're really good, and we're going to talk about them towards the end. But I want to show you a video. Let's see now, how do I... There we go. That I have pulled up here. Now this is three physicians having a conversation. One is, anybody in here ever heard of Dr. Mark Hyman? Yeah, you've heard of him. He's pretty well known in functional medicine, used to be an ER doctor. He's written several books. I have one of them in my library, but he's one of the ones talking. So we're gonna pull this up. I'll play a little bit of this for you.
Mile of a golf course at a 126% increased risk of developing Parkinson's disease compared to individuals who lived 6 or more miles apart.
There's a tremendous amount of toxins sprayed to keep those golf courses looking so great. Is it a risk for people? Should they be worried? Should they stop golfing? What do they do to protect themselves? For sure, don't lick your golf balls, which I know people do to clean them. Tell us, like, if you're a golfer, WTF.
So, Dr. Brittany Krasinowski is a geographer. She's at the Barrow Neurological Institute, and she worked with her colleague, Dr. Rodolfo Savica, one of our colleagues at Parkinson's Specialist at Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. And she was concerned about the effects of living near a golf course, because golf courses use huge amounts of pesticides.
And a lot of people live in these golf course communities.
And a lot of people live on these golf course communities. So she looked at Rochester, Minnesota, does a very good job of measuring new cases of Parkinson's disease, and she found that individuals who lived within 1 mile of a golf course had a 126% increased risk of developing Parkinson's disease compared to individuals who lived 6 or more miles apart.
Oh my.
So why? And so she spends a lot of time in her paper discussing water supply. And so we talked a little bit about how pesticides can get into the water. For example, people who drink well water, not really by the Safe Drinking Water Act, prone to contamination from nearby farms in rural areas.
Seeps into the ground, yeah.
Have a higher risk of developing Parkinson's disease. So she's focused on that. I worry a little bit about the pesticides that are sprayed into the air. There was a small little report in the Annals of Neurology that 2 neurologists found that 18 of their patients lived near a golf course, and 15 of the 18 lived downwind of the golf course. So I worry about pesticides being sprayed on golf courses or on fields, and people living downwind and inhaling them. We talked about how many individuals, most individuals perhaps, Parkinson's begins in the nose, so I worry about nerve toxins being inhaled into the nose. So what to do? Pickleball. You know, why can't we ask golf courses?
Pickleball is one of those dangerous sports. You know, so many people are so out of shape.
Listen, that's all.
Okay, I think you get the idea. So if you live near a golf course, you have a much higher chance much higher chance of Parkinson's disease. So let's look at some of the toxins that we have in our bodies. The EPA biopsied some fat biopsies, and they find 100% of the fat biopsies biopsy contains styrene, which you get when you drink from styrofoam cups. Okay, but you get it other ways too. It's a neurotoxin which inhibits the ability to concentrate. It's a potential carcinogen. 100% of the fat biopsies contain dioxins. So you get that from diapers, tampons, bleach, hydrocarbons, cigarette smoke is a big source of dioxin. It can cause deformities, other symptoms are thyroid disorders, which we have lots of that in this country, immune disorders, diabetes, endometriosis. And so what they're saying here is that some of the problems that we see in our culture, the health issues, may not all be from what we eat. It may be from what we're exposed to as well. 100% contains xylene. You find that in solvent glue, a lot of glue. You find xylene in, affects the brain, can cause headaches and confusion. And 100% of the fat biopsies contain 1,4-dichlorobenzene, which you get in public restroom deodorizers. So, so when you walk into a public restroom and you smell that smell, that's what you're smelling is 1,4-dichlorobenzene. So I had a couple of other whole slides of this stuff, but this is probably enough to give you an idea of what we're dealing with here in our culture. There's another chemical called 4-nonylphenol, which is really associated with breast cancer. And they're used in manufacturing antioxidants, lubricating oils, but you find this chemical in laundry and dish detergents, emulsifiers. And emulsifiers you get in toothpaste, and I don't know if it's in toothpaste or not, but toothpaste does contain a lot of emulsifiers. So it's an issue, and you've all had the experience of walking down the aisle in the grocery store. They have the detergents. Does it smell a little different than the other aisles? It smells pretty bad. And what you're smelling are these kind of chemicals. 4-nonylphenol binds to estrogen receptors in breast tissue, which increases the risk for breast cancer. So why do women tend to have 9 times more autoimmune issues than men? Because toxins are attracted to estrogen receptor sites, and women have a lot more of those than men do. We have them, but not as many as women do. So industrial chemicals known to disrupt hormones are, number one is PCBs. You've heard of PCBs, most of you, polychlorinated biphenyls, dioxins, Teflon, which is PFACs, perfluoroalkyl compounds, phthalates, bisphenol A, which are plastics, DDE, organophosphates, so insecticides, pesticides, plastics. We're all exposed to this stuff. So we'll talk about how to alleviate that here in a little bit. But when you think about it, like for example, how many of you fly in airplanes?
Mm-hmm.
I do. I'm going on a trip this weekend to Texas. So all of those seats are sprayed with flame retardant.
Mm-hmm.
That's a government thing. It's a weird thing because they've been shown that during an airplane crash, they really don't save many lives. But yeah, that's not why that's right. But the government, they're lobbying people for the industries that make this, lobby the government to make sure it's sprayed on the airplane seats. So that's the world that we live in. Hormones affected by these compounds, which I just showed you, are estrogen. So phthalates are a very, very potent estrogen compound. Testosterone is affected, and thyroid is affected. So what are some of the big problems that we have in our culture. Well, thyroid is one, okay? And how many of you heard the low T commercials on the radio or TV? That's another one. Low testosterone in men, which you never heard about that in the 70s and 80s, but now it's like it's everywhere, okay? And, you know, chlorine, fluorine, and bromine also affects the thyroid. So we chlorinated water. Bromine is in a lot of our flour, and, you know, fluorine is in lots of places, and we'll show you that in a minute. So bisphenols, which is part of the plasticizer, are at least 100 times more toxic than we've been led to believe for the developing fetus. So this stuff is not good for unborn, especially males. Males seem to be a lot more susceptible to it. So what would be something that a pregnant mother could do to help avoid this problem for a developing male child? What do you think?
Is it the plastics that do this? So don't eat off of plastics?
Yeah, the bisphenol A,
Yeah.
which is part of plastic.
Yeah.
And I don't think the other BPs, bisphenols, are any different or any better.
Mm-hmm.
So what could a pregnant mother do to avoid that?
Breastfeed the baby.
Definitely need to do that. But what about, how is she going to avoid ingesting that into her system?
Get rid of the plastics in the kitchen.
As much as possible. How about not drinking out of plastic bottles?
Yeah.
You get 250,000 nanoparticles of plastic in those crinkly plastic bottles. That's a study out of it was Nature Medicine. I have that article in the back there. 250,000. So those crinkly plastic bottles, when you drink that, and that crosses the blood-brain and the blood-placental barrier. So you don't drink out of plastic bottles. That'd be one thing. You never cook in a microwave oven in plastic. That's another thing you don't do. So you want to avoid things like that. We can't avoid everything, but we can avoid a lot of things. Okay, so and this is a slide I just put in here. It's astounding the number of young men I see with low testosterone and low sex drive. Much of this dysfunction comes from toxicity, poor diet, and stress. I'm amazed at how many men in their 30s have this issue. And you know, I tell you what, back in the 80s, 90s, you didn't see that. You didn't see that. You saw the opposite problem, actually. So this is a sign of our times. And so, what is the number one food that you want to get a man off of that's having testosterone issues? Maybe I should say food-like substance. It's a food, but it really is, sort of isn't. Anybody know? It's sugar. Okay. Why is that? Anybody know why? So sugar raises what hormone in the body?
Cortisol.
What?
Cortisol?
It does, but there's another one that's even bigger than that. Insulin. Anybody hear insulin? Okay. Elevated insulin converts testosterone to estrogen. And in fact, estrone and estradiol. So, I mean, you know, when you see these guys walking around with big bellies, they're converting a lot of their testosterone to estrogen. Okay, so insulin does that. So does cortisol. But you got that right, Takema. So cortisol and insulin convert testosterone to estrogen. That's one of the things I talked about in my male health talk on testosterone. Only 2 men were here to hear it, so it wasn't a big audience. Okay, so let's, another toxin. we know that the Bt toxin in GMO corn is designed to break open the stomach of insects when they eat it. Doctors at Sherbrooke University Hospital in Quebec found that corn's Bt toxin in the blood of pregnant women and their babies, as well as non-pregnant women. So you want to try and eat things that are organic, that aren't sprayed with, and sometimes it's impossible. Okay, so I took my staff out for Mexican food a couple weeks ago, and you don't know what you're getting in restaurants. It's certainly not organic, so we probably had some of that in the restaurant. So that's why I don't go out to eat very much. Roundup has been found in a whole host of common foods. So if you want to look at the number one food that has a lot of Roundup, oats. Quaker oats especially, full of Roundup, okay? Most granola bars have Roundup. I don't eat any of those bars, okay? The only bars I eat are those right there.
So if they're organic oats, do they still have Roundup?
If they're steel cut organic oats, they don't have Roundup. They should.
They have to be
steel cut,
not just organic.
steel cut organic oats. That's what I talked to a guy at a lab in Iowa, the chief financial officer. I had a conversation with him on the phone, and he said Quaker oats are full of Roundup. They test that in that lab. They test Roundup. So they test for glyphosate, which is the active ingredient in Roundup. So scientists speculate that Roundup may lead to autoimmune diseases, food intolerances, and cognitive and learning disorders in newborns. I don't know if this is like this. I don't know that how solid the science is on this, but I will say this: one of the things we know that Roundup does do, it alters the microbiome, your intestinal gut bacteria, and that can create a lot of problems in and of itself. So according to an article in a 2015 edition of the journal Neurotoxicology, it's a journal I used to quote a lot when I was doing my radio show 7-8 years ago. Roundup residue in foods can accumulate and lead to Parkinson's, disruptions of neurotransmitters such as serotonin and dopamine. So you want to avoid it as much as possible. And there's a lot of people that spray it on their lawns, because it's a pretty effective weed killer. Okay? I mean, it works. But, I don't spray it on my yard, and we have an incredible crop of dandelions every spring. Okay? It's world class. So, environmental toxins are one of the big three that lead to gut dysbiosis, which is a leading cause of autoimmune and neurological disorders. The other two being pharmaceuticals and the standard American diet. So here's a Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism, March 5th, 2015, said by the following medical researcher, Leonardo Trasande, who's from Italy, in a paper on hormone and endocrine disruptors. He said toxic exposure can come through the following chemicals: pharmaceuticals, industrial solvents, personal care products. So let me just talk about this for a minute. Have any of you women ever used personal care products that soften your skin? That do that? Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I put moisturizer on.
Okay. If you have a product that genuinely makes your skin soft, I promise you, there's estrogen is in that product. And one of the labs that I use that I like a lot is called Diagnostics, and I've talked to people in that lab, some of the clinicians in the lab. And they've tested a whole slew of personal care products. And they said that estrogen is one of the most common non-listed ingredients that they find. So, and they even have them in men's aftershave lotion, you know, and that is a bad thing for men, is to be taking aftershave lotion, bringing estrogen into their bodies. So it's a lot of, I don't use any, I use pretty much real basic stuff, but I don't use any of the creams or anything like that, because a lot of that has estrogen in it, and it's not on the label. And especially your high-end women's personal care products, most of them have estrogen in it. That's the only thing that can make skin soft. There's no such thing as a chemical, as a synthetic chemical that can soften skin. The only thing that can do that is estrogen. Aluminum can linings, yeah, I still drink out of aluminum cans. That's a problem with me. I drink the flavored soda waters that don't have any anything in them, but they're really nothing in them. Plasticizers, pesticides, environmental pollutants. So these are chemicals that can actually cause deafness, that can actually lead to deafness. So the aminoglycoside antibiotics, gentamicin, streptomycin, anti-malarial drugs, well, we don't have an issue with that here in this country. Lasix, chemotherapeutic platinum agents, and certain industrial solvents and nitriles. So again, you know, I would say if you can avoid taking Lasix, we do it. If you can avoid these antibiotics, you may have to take them short term, but boy, don't take them long term, because they can cause problems. Here's another source of toxicity: air fresheners. Now, I would recommend you never, ever use an air freshener, ever, of any kind, okay? They're toxic, okay? There's a study that out of 13 common household air fresheners found that most of the surveyed products contain chemicals that aggravate asthma and affect reproductive development. So I would never use one. I haven't used them. You know, they're toxic. So what are some of the health and financial costs associated with environmental toxic exposure? So I had several slides of this. I'm not going to go through all of them, but the greatest cost was for ADHD, which costs $132 billion a year. By endocrine disrupting chemical type pesticides were the most costly, accounting for $120 billion extra dollars of health care. So other estimates of burden, disease, and cost from environmental toxicity. And this is from the Dr. Trezande that I just talked about. That's where I got these figures from. An extra 318 autistic 8-year-olds costing $200 million, 31,000 10-year-olds with ADHD, and 42,400 obese 4-year-olds. Here's Dr. Trezande. He looks like he's about a sophomore in college, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Of course, as we get older, everybody looks young. You know? So he said this research is supported by a substantial mountain of human and laboratory evidence. Toxic metals are a source of toxicity. Mercury, really bad on the nervous system, strong connection with MS. Cadmium, you get a lot of cadmium in cigarette smoke. Secondhand cigarette smoke, car tires, auto exhaust, is associated with all kinds of problems. Certain, like mercury, did you know that high fructose corn syrup is processed with mercury? So how many of our foods have high fructose corn syrup in it? Like almost all of our processed foods. It's another good reason not to eat highly processed foods. High fructose corn syrup is toxic. It's toxic to the body, and it causes this thing called glycation. So does anybody know what you can read it, but glycation is when sugar and protein hook up together and become part of your cells. So glycation, people that eat a lot of sugar and are very glycated have a lot of wrinkles, okay? And I used to know this when I was when I was in high school and when I went through college and I lived in Omaha. We had these neighbors kind of kitty corner across the street from our house. And man, she ate a lot of sugar. She was older. I mean, sugar was a huge part of her diet. She had a lot of wrinkles, a lot. So glycation, Dr. Lustig, Robert Lustig, whose books I have in my library, lists 8 things, 8 breakdowns, metabolic breakdowns in the body that cause disease, okay? I'm not going to go through the 8, but glycation is one of them. And he said, these 8 things that cause disease are not touched by pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceuticals can't fix any of them, which is pretty interesting because he's a pediatric endocrinologist. So glycation is a pretty big deal. This is a problem when you have too much high fructose corn syrup. So glycation is one of the things that causes the aging of discs and degeneration in your spine. And that comes from eating too much sugar and too much high fructose corn syrup. So hidden toxins that linger in the organs and fat cells can cause all kinds of mysterious issues in the body. So I'm going to give you an example of one individual that I just saw recently. So this guy, I have 2 of them actually. They're both about the same age. One's about 78, the other's 82. And they both have prostates that just keep getting bigger. And nobody knows why. Okay? So I recommended both of these patients that we do a toxicity test. I'll explain in a little bit. Because if you have unexplainable problems in the body that nobody can figure out, chances are you're carrying a level of toxicity. So cancer, prostate, endocrine disruption, stubborn fungal infections, spots and cysts on different organs, all of that can be due to problems with toxicity in the body that you've accumulated. And I'll give you my own example of this in a minute. So testing for toxicity is really important. So I did this test on myself. It's called the Vibrant Wellness Total Tox Burden Test. Test for 20 heavy metals, 29 molds, and 38 environmental chemicals. Pretty thorough, I would say. Okay, so I did this on myself. I found 3 major toxins, high levels of toxins in my body. One was perchlorate, which is do you know what anybody here perchlorate? Like at the beginning of the summer or late spring, there was this huge explosion in Tehran at the airport. It was perchlorate. It's part of rocket fuel. Okay, so I was high in perchlorate. I was also high in 2 other ones. I'm trying to remember. It's perchlorate. I was high in aflatoxin, which, do you know where that comes from? Moldy corn. How do I get that? I don't know. You know? And I was high in a heavy metal, was arsenic. I knew where I got that from because we eat too much rice at our house, and rice uptakes arsenic. So I started detoxifying, and I took a product that I have called Detoxin Cleanse, and I took a lot of it. And so I had 2 health issues that I've been dealing with, that I've been managing. Number one was every winter, anytime the weather starts getting cooler like today, but it doesn't even have to get as cool as today, I'd start the heels of my feet would start cracking open and bleeding. That's a thyroid problem, okay? So I would take a product that I have called Metabolic Thyro, and that would clear it up. This year I didn't do that. Weather changed. I've been detoxing since March. My heels haven't bothered me at all. Pretty interesting, I thought. Okay, So that tells me that maybe the thyroid, there's some perchlorate in my thyroid. The other issue is I had a fungal infection on my feet that I wasn't able to get rid of. That's almost gone now. And that, all I did was detoxify, use detox and cleanse. Okay, so I know that it works. Now, I haven't redone the test yet, and I really need to. But when I saw what I had in my body, I knew that I had to get rid of it. I didn't want it there. So this is a test that I really recommend if you have issues that you can't explain, you don't know where they come from. This is a urine test, so I don't have to draw any blood, I don't have to stick you. And it takes about 2 weeks to get it back, okay, maybe 2.5 weeks. And I would recommend that you think about it. If you have issues that you don't know where they're coming from. Now, I mean, if you have high insulin levels, you're probably eating too many refined carbohydrates. So we know where that's coming from. But I'm talking about other issues. And I just did this test because I just wanted to see for myself what I had. I didn't know what I'd find or what would happen. And so I've been detoxing since March, and I can tell you that it's worked for me. So let's look at a few other ones. Here's some safe and simple steps that families can take to limit their exposure to endocrine disrupting chemicals. Don't ever microwave in plastic. Avoid eating from aluminum or drinking fluid from aluminum cans. I need to stop that. Eat as much organic as possible. Eat cruciferous vegetables daily because they're very important for detoxification. At our house, I eat a lot of broccoli and a lot of cauliflower and a fair amount of kale. All cruciferous vegetables, a lot, almost every day. Do not use personal care products that contain a lot of chemicals that you can't pronounce. And just air out your homes every few days when you can. It removes some of the chemical dust. So toxicity increases the allostatic load on your body. So we accumulate things over time, and sometimes it's the one straw that will break the camel's back that causes problems in our life. So good. So do anybody have any questions over anything that I've gone over? Yes.
What type, you talked about the type of vegetables. What makes that category?
Cruciferous vegetables?
Yeah.
They're very high in sulfur. Sulfur is very important for phase 1 and phase 2 liver toxicity. Another really good cruciferous vegetable is Brussels sprouts. Cabbage, purple cabbage is good. Very, very powerful detoxifier. So I alternate between cauliflower and broccoli in my salads a lot. And if you don't like cruciferous vegetables, Standard Process has a product called Cruciferous Complete. It's kind of like cruciferous vegetables in a capsule. So you can just take it, and you don't have to eat the vegetables, but I think the vegetables are good. So.
What about cooking them? Does that change?
I would say if you it's okay. It's okay to cook them. Yeah, it's all right. Most of the time I eat them raw. I don't eat Brussels sprouts raw, but broccoli and cauliflower I do. And Brussels sprouts, I mean, they're really powerful in detoxification. So I think they taste pretty good too when they're cooked properly. Good. Any other questions? Okay. Does everybody know how to win the TV? Okay. So to win the TV, just refer somebody into the office to get them screened or refer them in as a patient. Or by the end of the month, bring them to one of my talks. You get tickets for the raffle, and we're going to raffle off the TV. So I'm surprised nobody here brought somebody that's never been to one of my talks before, because that's how you get tickets. So we're going to give it away, and You know, some people have enough big screen TVs, you know, some people don't want one, but a lot of people would like to win it, so that's how you do it. So, any other questions? All right, great, good. Thanks for coming tonight. And our next talk is, what is it? It's going to be, the importance of nervous system in health and disease. So, thank you for coming. If you're interested in the toxicity test, I have some information I can give you on it that explains it a little bit more. It's a great test. Good. I guess. Thank you for coming tonight.
Slide?
Yeah.